Today's message from Reverend Christian Sorensen was recorded July 31st, 2016, and it's titled, Embracing Differences. Subtitled, It's Not Tolerating, It's Embracing. Be committed with your heart, compassion. Stop, look, listen, and feel it to help me understand. Come visit us at seasidecenter.org, and you can join us in Encinitas, California sometime, where we always have really great music, a spirited message, and a joyful, loving community that's always here to await you.
Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home, 'cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here.
Let me know, let me experience something more than I can figure out in my head. I mean, that takes vulnerability, what we just watched, and our willingness to just go with it and be captured. This morning's message is embracing differences. It is about embracing the diversity and taking a look at our life and taking what is it that is keeping us from experiencing that which is different in our world. And what I got to notice is being on the minister's listserv, we get a lot of messages that Roby knows. It's like there's like so many to read, and of late, there've been a lot about what's been going on in our country, within our nation, the riots, the bombings, the injustice, the trying to understand what's going on in the world and the airports, and it's just been too draining to read all that, and I have just been scrolling through until this week this topic came up. I said, I got to sit there and look at it, because what I realized, if I'm drained just thinking it is too much to read, can I even begin to imagine how draining it is to have to live it every day of your life? The least I can do is take a look at that and begin to recognize that, you know what, I'm of a privilege that I can just choose to scroll through it and not look at it. And what I begin to recognize is I've got these privileges or these biases or these preferences in my life that are in my subjective that oftentimes I don't even know. And if I want to be able to embrace difference, if I want to be able to embrace diversity, I got to look at what those biases or preferences are or privileges are that are keeping me from experiencing that which is something a little bit greater. And I know we've been, people pray for things in our world and the diversity issues to begin to disappear and dissolve and not really have to deal with what's out there, or Black Lives Matter, or the LGBTQ issues that are going on, and where we pull our conference out of, and all of a sudden, there is this desire to pray for everything to be rosy, everything to be nice and wonderful. But what I come to recognize sometimes and oftentimes is when we pray, things don't all of a sudden become rosy. Isn't it all nice and wonderful? Well, no, not always. Sometimes we have to go from where we are to rosy. We have to move through these things that are coming to the surface and realize, because of my privilege, I haven't even really bothered to look at they have been lurking there for how long. It's not a new issue, but all of a sudden things are coming to the surface. And what I've got to come to understand about myself is that I may think I can understand, but all I can ever really experience is that of a white male of this generation. I think, if I really pay attention, I can understand the experience of other individuals and other expressions and the difficulties that people will go through, whether it has to do with ethnic expression or religious preferences or racial expression. I even thought if I could really pay attention, I could experience or understand what it meant to be a woman. And, and what I get is I can never have that experience. The most I could ever do is sit there and listen. And not sit there in judgment, because it is their experience, and it's not because I am just so high and I got it figured out, guys. If you could just see it as I see it and apply these spiritual principles, that it's all good and everything's going to be good, and you exercise your male dominance in the workplace, and that's how it works. It doesn't work that way. But what happens is we get caught up in our perspective and think that is the way it is. And we forget to listen and to hear others. And one of the messages that came through the minister's listserv this week was of a dear friend of mine for more than 20 years, a minister over in Florida, sharing the story of his wife who he has been married to for 25 years. Wonderful, wonderful person and friend. And she is third generation Japanese American. And her friend came to visit her over in Florida, and they were sitting there recounting what it was like to grow up as a Japanese American. And she was sharing how her parents had met in the Japanese concentration camps of World War II. And the other one shared, how she was born in the camps during that era, and what it was like to grow up as a hated Jap who was born in this country that now hates you, and how she used to pray as a girl for her hair to turn blonde and her eyes to turn blue. And when she would walk down the street, she would hold her head down or wear sunglasses, hoping nobody would notice. And as my friend would listen to these stories being shared among these two, he said he'd always known the stories, but what really got him is not the pain of the experience, but the pain that still lives in them today from that kind of experience. He said he realizes that he will never know the experience of that kind of pain and that kind of shame. As I've been thinking this week, I think about my son who's got special needs. And he is highly sensitive to energy and doesn't have a lot of words to be able to articulate what it is he's experienced, so I can understand in that kind of way. And he has difficulty entering into places that have a lot of people in them. He sits in my office because he cannot enter into this room. I try to take him out to lunch, and we get to the door of the restaurant, and he can't go in, and you can just see him struggling, and his body is kind of doing some moves, and the words that are babbling out of his mouth. And I'm saying, come on, don't you want to at least have lunch with your dad? Talk about emotional pressure. That's not right. But all of a sudden, it's dawning on me that my kid is trying with everything in his being, but this energy is such a loud noise on his head that he cannot physically get himself in there. And so he's outside making these moves, and people are walking in, giving him the strangest looks, like, what's going on with this kid? Why are you being so mean to this young man? And I'm recognizing that, you know what? I will never understand what it's like to so hard want to please his dad and have a lunch with his dad, and he can't do it, and the pain that is there, and to have people looking and saying things. I'll never know that kind of pain. I may kind of try to understand, but the best I can do is listen to the ability in which he can express. We don't know. I've got young people who walk into the seaside and they look around here and say, gosh, there's nobody in here that looks like me, And I try to say, but I'm cool, I may not be 30, but I'm cool. I'm trying. But you know what? I don't know what it feels like to look and say, there's nobody who looks like me, or what it's like to be kind of put in isolation, or not want to be noticed, or to be kept out of thing. We just don't know, because we have a different kind of privilege or bias. And if I want to begin to embrace diversity, I can't sit there in judgment and say, nah. Michelle Obama, she rocked the speeches of both conventions. And what she shared was one of the things she shared was that she awakes, in the morning with the awareness that there were slaves that built this house that she lived in. And all of a sudden, there was this judgment coming from some of the commentators saying, well, I've never heard such a thing. It must be a lie. It's not the truth. Hey, we've got to do fact check to see if what we're being sold is absolutely the truth. And even one of the commentators came back with the mitigating facts. Well, not all the people that built the White House were slaves, and the ones that were well-fed and well-housed. And I can't even begin to imagine, or I try to imagine, how that experience must be for those that are African-American, thinking that a news commentary could make those kind of comments. I imagine it's like the only possible thing I can do, because I could never experience what it's like or understand what it's like to have that put back at you like that. But once again, that's white privilege who is dictating the expression of the history book, sitting in a room with the core curriculum creators of a board, too uncomfortable to put the truth out there for people to know and learn. And so here others of us are not knowing what we don't know, acting with the bias from which we have been indoctrinated by our culture, and while others are feeling the discomfort of being treated in a way today. And so what we can do is sit there tell me. I want to hear you. I want to listen. I want to have compassion. I want to embrace the differences, because as Ernest was talking about, he put his stamp of individuality on himself. And so what we all are is an expression of the one life, of that God life. And it's not getting people to see things as I see them, but beginning to open up and to love more, to understand more, to hear more, to take the action, to create the space for greater understanding to happen. What is it that I can do to help support a greater understanding? You know, the Seaside is joining in the LGBTQ day out at the beach in Oceanside in October with 10,000 people. You know, we're creating space here to hear Black Lives Matters positions and ideas and feelings. What can we do? Let Seaside know we're here to be an open, listening, affirming, caring, kind, non-judgmental community. But we got to participate and say, talk, I'm here to listen. You know, Barbara DeAngelis, when she was here, one of the things she said is, it's not about your partner being more lovable, it's about you being more loving. Hello. It's about you being more loving. Roselle, you're loving enough. You're good. It's... How can I be more loving is the question that I need to ask when I feel the discomfort going on in my life. What is it that I can do to embrace, not tolerate? It's not about tolerating differences. It's embracing, it's appreciating. I'm grateful for this piece of color on the tapestry that would not be there if it wasn't for the difference. And this full picture is what God is, or the full picture is what the tapestry is. And so what I've got to be willing to do is to move beyond my fear, because fear is not a good thing. If you hadn't noticed, it kind of constricts you. It closes you down. It warps you. It wraps you in a sense of smallness. It makes you neurotic. It creates these parallel universes that all of a sudden that you're living in and coming from that no one really gets or understands. What we have got to do is be willing to move beyond the fear and discomfort and to trust our brothers and sisters more. To say, hey, help me here. Let me hear. I don't know. I will never fully understand or get the experience, but I want to hear what you have to say. Doesn't matter whether I'm colorblind. I get there's pain there that we know nothing of. It was never in the history books. Let me know. Because what is happening right now is Deepak Chopra wrote a wonderful article this week, and he was talking about that what is coming to the surface in our political arena is not really that bizarre. I go, really? Just kidding. I'll take it back. But what he said is actually, it is the part that Jung talked about of a person or a psyche is the shadow. It is coming to the surface, and it is all of a sudden when being bad becomes being good. All of a sudden, the bad boy and the bad girl become the heroes of it. All of a sudden, you got somebody saying, hey, this is fun, to act like this. Other people realize it's okay to be publicly bad or whatever it is. And the thing with the shadow is that once it's out of the box, it's hard to get back in. And you can deny it, or it either brings, denial or disaster, if you would. I mean, you deny it, and then you got a problem because it's always lurking there. But if you surrender to it, then you got disaster. You got a world war, what have you. But what's beautiful about this country, along with many things, is that we have a way of letting the steam off. We don't keep the shadow stuff fully stuck under there. Hopefully. I mean, we do as long as we can. But it's a place that the country doesn't split over. Though at times we have made heroes out of these individuals. I mean, remember during the prohibitions, the bootleggers were the folk heroes of the day, but we never made Capone the president. Yeah. During the Great Recession, our heroes were the bank robbers, but we never made Bonnie and Clyde the president. Yeah. And so just because it is stirring, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It is that place between disaster, denial. It's something that is emerging and coming. And what we're at this assemblage point. This is the fulcrum. And you know what? What we got to do right now is recognize I just need to move a little bit here. I've got to move a little bit and recognize that something I learned in grade school. When you get to the corner, what you do is you stop, you look, and you listen. Remember that one? Wouldn't that be a good thing with what's going on with our news and our culture? Is you know what? Something is coming to the surface and it's stirring me. I'm not feeling comfortable in these discussions or these conversations. We're in areas of things I haven't known or spoken about in public. And all of a sudden, I need to stop. I need to look at what's going on, and I got to listen. I got to listen to those that are sharing from a vulnerable place, a risky place, and I've got to listen to my heart and soul and begin to allow these ideas to merge together, because I just want to embrace difference. I want to embrace diversity. I want to recognize that spirit shows up in a multifaceted of expressions, and the greater diversity, the more facets to the diamond, the more beauty that there is of that whole expression, the light and the love and the glory of God. And I want to be that place that is able to hear that. And that's what's happening within our culture. At least I think one of the things that is happening in our culture right now. With all the drama that is going on, I believe that there are more people listening than ever before. More people wanting to have the conversation and saying, you know what, help me. I don't get it. There are more people, I believe, than ever before whose eyes are open and saying, you know what, something's not right here. This treatment across the board, the social injustices, those things that are going on, there is something that is asking for help that wants to be known. Help me to understand this. Let me see this. It's not about blame or shame or right or wrong. It's about listening. It's about understanding. It's about caring. It's about loving. It's about recognizing that spirit shows up in its diverse expressions, whether black, white, Latino, Asian, LGBTQ, Native American, Muslim, New Thought, you pick the identity. It is all spirit expressing, and what I want to be is a safe place for God to show up. And so I'm a firm believer that all of us are open and capable to shift and to change, and that the grown-ups of this world have that capacity. But I really think what's important and is the key to all this is the next generation, is our children that are coming into this world. Our children come in as a blank slate. They're not born here as a racist. They are born here as a loving expression of God that have come here to share their light and their purpose and their joy of being. Roy was sharing with me a test where they show these kids, different individuals of different color skin, and the little children didn't know whose color was what. They just knew if it was a joyous person, a mean person, a happy person. They were just experiencing the fullness and the expression of their friends and their children that they see. Oh, that's who I play with on the playground. That's who I go to school with. That's all these kids know. And they come into this world, and we are their teachers. We're their guides. We're the ones, as Gibran says, as we cast them, we can't go to the future. It's the place they're going to go without us. But we're the archer that pulls the bow, that sends our children into the future. How are we sending them? I'll tell you what's happening to a lot of kids. When I was a kid, they used to talk about kids watching too much TV. How many hours of TV do kids watch? But you know, they got more than one screen now, right? They got TV, get them off the TV, then they're on the iPad. You know, you get them off the iPad, then they're on the iPhone. And you get them off, you know, and all of a sudden they are inundated with screens. And it's not as if they are, you know, wait till later in life, you know, where Waldorf would really appreciate that schooling. But you know what? Our kids, you know, I don't know, by the age of 5 or sooner, they've got iPads. They know how to use their iPads better than I do. which isn't saying much, but it's saying something. That you got a 2-year-old who knows how to play Candy Crush on a screen. And I mean, I've seen parents rolling their kids in strollers with an iPhone on a little baby's lap, just, keeping them happy and engaged. It's about holding our kids. It's being present. Because what are they learning is the programming of a privileged, biased culture that is coming through the screen. They're watching who knows what. You're supposed to know. But I'll assure you, I'm surprised when I go in watching Trevor doing these car crashes and different, or these war movies. And it's like, really? I didn't teach you that. But the fact that I allow a child to be on there more than, a little bit, it's me. It's me. You see the commercials? What is that expressing? They learn violence. The video games, it desensitizes this generation to violence, to killing, to blood, to all those things. So when they see it on the street, it's like, oh, well, I watched how many murders this week. Our kids are the key to the next generation that is going to assist us to walk through this world in a field of grace and love and support for one another. And yet we are allowing our kids' minds to be sculpted at that early age. It's about holding. It's about being present. They learn through example, our children. They learn by the love that is shared. Yet people are told, this is how you raise a kid. Back in the 20s, they believed you shouldn't touch the kids. Like, really? And then after that, there came a point, I don't know, the 50s or something, where it was believed that it's not good to breastfeed, you bottle feed. And so you listen to the experts that are out there. And then there came a point where the experts were saying, when your kid's crying, you let them cry it out. It's like, but if you listen to the grandmothers, if you listen to the members of the tribe that are based in love and caring about this human being, they're going to say that your kid's crying for a reason. They're hungry. They got to go to the bathroom, clean their, whatever it is. But yet we have allowed ourselves to be detached from that. And the key to embracing diversity as a whole community upon the planet is our children stepping into a new field of love and understanding, to be able to step into this world and recognize that they're blessed. There's this little 5-year-old, and his dad's watching the news and war, all those war pictures all the time that we're getting tired of. But you remind yourself, what, if I can't even watch it, can you imagine living it every day? The little kid says to Dad, hey, Dad, like 5, what's war? How's that happening? And so Dad, gets into explaining it. Said war happens because people and religions or beliefs or prejudices or, and it goes on in this country. And the kid doesn't get it and asks the next day, Dad, what's war? And he goes through it again, trying to explain, politics or, who knows what dads try to do. Bless us, our hearts. We do the best we can. But finally, after a few days, when he said, Dad finally got it. The kid was afraid. He just wanted to know that he was going to be okay. He just wanted his dad to hold him and let him know, what, I love you. And it's going to be okay. For right now, we're safe. It's okay. Nobody's going to bomb our house. We are privileged here, and it's not happening here in our neighborhood. But all that child wanted to be was held and reassured that, what you're seeing there, you're going to be okay with all that. See, and our children learn through example. That's why I say with every christening we do, hey guys, you got to pay attention because these children learn through example. And you know what? They're looking at each and every one of us. Every one of you here is like a godparent to these kids we see sitting here on Sunday morning because they're looking at you and learning through example. And here's a story of an old sailor who had a parrot, and his parrot, developed a cough, and the sailor was a pipe smoker. He loved his pipe, was always smoking. His parrot was coughing, so he decided to give up his pipe smoking. He took his parrot to the vet. The vet did the x-rays and came back and told the old sailor, you know what, your bird's lungs are okay. He doesn't have a respiratory challenge. All he's doing is mimicking his owner's cough. See, we don't even get what we're teaching through example. Tibetan monk Kalu Rinpoche, someone asked him, so when do we start teaching our children meditation and spiritual practices? He said, who said you should be teaching your children meditation and spiritual practices? Forget that. Work on yourself. You meditate and you do your spiritual practices and allow your child to see what is important and valuable to you, and your child will get it. Our children, we talk about loving them with all our being, but we're so busy. So that's why they get the screen. I just can't take another tantrum. Yeah, no. But there's this tribe in West Africa, and I just love this, that when a woman feels it's time to conceive and have a child, she'll go out into nature and she'll sit next to a tree, and she will sit there until she hears her child, her new soul's song. And then she comes back and she shares that song with her partner. And when she is making love with her partner, they sing this song together, which might be a turn on if I were to do that. But it's supposed to be a beautiful thing. And this child is conceived in the singing of their song, and when it's in the mom's womb, the mom sings this child their song, teaches it to the midwives, and when the child is born, they are singing the song to this child, and when this child is growing up and stumbles and fumbles, the people sing the song to this child. When the child goes through the rites of passage, they sing the song. At the marriage ceremony, they sing the song. And if the child were to run into trouble, that they would bring the clan or the tribe together, put them in a circle, and sing the song so they could remember who they are. And the last song that they will ever hear when they leave this world and dying is that song that the community is singing to them. See, when it takes a village to raise a child, it's not the experts out there, it is the grandmothers. It is those that are in the pack, the tribe. And it takes time. It's not like you're going to learn this boom, 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 though that's how we push our kids. It's like we push and we push and we push beyond their appropriate timing oftentimes. We wean them off things before it's time for them to be weaned off, because we think, well, it's time to step to the next level of expression. We push and we push, not trusting that they are intuitive enough to know their divine nature and their unique expression and their place of welcoming for that expression to come up, because part of childhood is, wobbling and stumbling before walking, crawling before walking, babbling before talking, puberty before sexuality. It's like there's this part that we got to go through before we get to mastery, but we teach people that unless you are mastering it, it's no good, you're not good, and children learn that if I'm not good, what am I? You get A's, you're good. If you don't get A's, well, you're not good. You do this on my timeline, you're good. If you don't, I'm not saying you're bad, I'm just saying you're not good. And what kind of message are we giving our kids? It seeps in slowly, but they get it through our actions. And if we want the next generation to embrace diversity, we've got to be willing to be vulnerable to hear and to understand that which is beyond our comfort zone, so we can begin to step into things in a great way as parents do. Every parent knows that they have found something inside of them that is phenomenal, that has allowed them to step beyond in superhuman kind of ways. I just deeply love the story of a paraplegic mom who was watching her child in the pool area, and her child fell in the pool, and this mom rolled her wheelchair into the pool, grabbed her little child, and held on to the side of the pool for hours before anybody found them or came to rescue them. But where does that come from? It comes from within. We all have that capacity and capability to care, to love, to be receptive, to hear, to listen, to feel. It's there for us. But we've got to feel it ourselves. We've got to do our meditation. We've got to move beyond our preference-driven mind by sitting down and saying, God, here I am. Touch me. Let me see. See, meditation is about creating the space for that personal, conscious connection with Source, with Spirit, with God, with the infinite that is not limited by things, that is infinite. You get that? Infinite. And by making myself available, then I can hear. When I make myself available, I become receptive to something greater than what it is I know or what I have been taught heretofore. I become that place where God is able to touch down. I become that place where Spirit is known. And I've got to come to a relationship with that higher power of that presence. We say God is love, right? You heard of that one? John, God is love. It's a pretty common thing. If not, and we talked about the will of God, and will meaning thought. So if God is love and will is thought, then the will of God is a loving thought. And you say, wow, I'm going there. I've got faith that the loving thought's going to prevail in this situation where I'm uncomfortable. But I'm not asking you to have blind faith. I'm asking you to have a visionary faith. A faith that is far greater than my preferences, my privileges, or my biases. To know that when somebody says something, I don't have to go fact check. But I can hear the heart and the soul and the truth that is spoken in that moment. That truth that is spoken is Spirit. And I know that because we've been praying for a long time for help within our nation and upon our globe. I'm sure everyone in this room has thrown a few prayers out there. And I want you to know that help has arrived. That help is here. And it's you. It's you. You are the one we've been waiting for. But we have to drop the constrictions that we might be holding, even if we don't know what they are. But when they come to us, not get into reflective defensiveness, but to realize, you know what? I got to go through this before it becomes rosy, before things start to work a little bit better. But I am committed with all my being, not only with action, with heart, with compassion, with a stop, listen, look mentality, but I'm willing to have my actions speak so the children and the next generation can see what it is I'm up to. And what I'm up to is loving you and loving all of humankind with you. God bless us as we do this together.
to this place. You cry for mercy and you long for grace. Feel the love, feel the light. Won't you come in from the cold? 'Cause all are welcome here. Feel the joy, feel the peace, and the comfort of home. 'Cause all are welcome here. Yes, all are welcome here. Here.
All Are Welcome Here, from the album Path of Light, was co-written by Peggy Lebo and Reverend Christian Sorensen. It's available at www.peggylebo.com.